Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, guys.
Hey,
Hey,
Hello.
Hi, hi
how's it
hi
there.
going?
guys.
Okay, guys, welcome to Journey to the Cloud 3.0. This is our third event, which is hosted online. Your hosts this evening are Matthew Brown and Dan Ray. We have special guests joining us, Kat Greenan, Christian Vergara, Joseph Barnett, Derek Spring, and Ricardo. So welcome, everyone. All right. Okay,
Hi.
so I'm going to get everyone to say a small bit about themselves. We'll start with Kat.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So, my name is Kat Greenan, and I'm a Microsoft Solutions Specialist and recently awarded MVP. I am from Edinburgh in Scotland, but I live in South Wales, Cardiff. So a bit of a distance from my hometown. I have been working in the tech industry for only about 6 years. I came from a totally non-tech background and finally found my place in tech. And I specialize in Microsoft Teams, Viva, SharePoint, Yammer, all collaboration aspect of Microsoft 365. And that's me.
Perfect. Christian, you're next.
Yes, absolutely happy to be with all of you. So my name is Christian Vergara. I work for Microsoft. I'm a Microsoft technical trainer. So I spend my days providing training on official curriculum, like 4 or 5 classes. I do all the different Azure trainings. And also I am a coach for Open Hacks. Maybe you heard about this, a hands-on experience. So that's kind of what I do. I'm originally from Ecuador. But I live in Montreal. I moved here in Montreal kind of like 7 years ago. So happy to be with you. And I would say my specialization is around architecture, a lot of architecture, Thomas migrations to the cloud, and of course security. So for that brand new track, security, compliance, and identity, I'm one of the course leads for the SC400 information protection. So some exciting news that I have to share with you maybe at the end about that.
Thank you very much, Christian. Ricardo, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm a Microsoft MVP for Developer Technologies. I'm originally from Portugal. I moved to Ireland about 6 years ago, and I got my first MVP award last year. And I organize the Cork.net and Azure meetup. So you can find me usually on those meetups or some blogging or creating YouTube content. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Thanks a million, Ricardo. Joseph, please introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Joseph Barnett, owner and operator of JB Cloud Solutions. I just started a nonprofit, Project Veteran House. So we provide services for homeless veterans. And then also we're providing education, career placement, and then mentorships. And then the ultimate goal is to have a all-encompassed solution as far as health and PTSD and injuries that were suffered while going to war. Um, and I guess Microsoft Teams. I met Dan. I worked with Dan before, so that's my intro. Nice to meet everybody.
Thanks a million, Joseph. Dan, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Dan Ray, and I am a recent MVP as well, Kat. I was awarded in February of 2022, And I just renewed my MCT for, I believe it's the 22nd year as a Microsoft certified trainer. And like Joseph said, we met about a year ago. Matthew and I met about probably 2 or 3 months ago at this point. And it's been interesting just to see how our different networks have brought people together for things like this journey to the cloud. Welcome, everyone.
And thanks a million, Dan. Derek, introduce yourself.
Hi guys, so I'm Derek. I'm studying computer networks and systems management in LIT at the moment. I'm in my third year. I recently started my internship with NTES in Limerick, and I've been there since the beginning of March. So I'm only beginning my journey on learning about Office 365, Azure, 3CX, and all sorts of different softwares and installations and configurations. So I'm just happy to be here to kind of get an idea of what other people want to talk about and hopefully pick up some tips along the way.
Thanks a million, Derek. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name's Matthew Brown. I am the Cybersecurity Administrator for NTES in County Limerick in Ireland. I recently took up that position after a 4-year stint in another IT company in Killaloe. I specialize in cybersecurity, Azure, Office 365. I'm a member of the BCS community, and I'm a chartered member of the BCS in the UK and the Irish Computer Society as well. I hold multiple CompTIA and Microsoft certification, and my journey in the last 10 years has led me to this. So, without further ado, I want to start off with Kat. Can all speakers please either mute or turn off video where they require it? Kat, would you like to share your screen?
Yeah, that's perfect. I will just share my screen now. So that's me, should be sharing. So let me know if you can see that.
I will indeed. No, hasn't come up just yet, Kat.
Hopefully it's worth the wait.
Just
Matthew, did you
sometimes
turn on her presentation on the left?
it's not showing there just yet.
Huh.
No, it's not showing, Kat.
I can see it on my side.
Okay, can you try and
Let me
just
turn my
unshare that?
and see if that speeds things up. Yep. I can see it on my side, but my computer's going a little slow, so it's probably me. So if you give me a second, and I'll just reshare.
Take your time.
And just a little bit slow. Thank goodness we have a room full of IT pros.
You beat me to it.
Oh god, tip.
Sorry,
typical.
now it's frozen. Give me 1 second. Sorry, the chat's come up and now it's frozen and it's preventing me from being able to share. So let's just hopefully.
That's my fault. Apologies.
I'm just making sure that the presentations are working.
Okay.
Okay, now. Okay, Kat. Now it should be up.
Can you see it from your side?
I haven't
it's
turned
coming
it
up.
on.
Sorry, it's pace slow, and I also think there's a bit of a lag as well. You're a bit delayed. I can hear myself from someone's speaker, and I'm a few seconds delayed. Goodness me, let me try refresh quickly.
Kat, what's your presentation called?
She's just going to join there in a second.
Okay.
She has an issue with the connection.
Well, this is a great start, isn't it?
It is typical IT on a Friday afternoon. We had tested all
Absolutely.
this half an hour ago,
This is-
folks, and it was all
This is
working.
just to show that this happens to everyone. So it's
Yeah, I know, right?
So I'm going to check mine. It looks like that's working.
Yeah, I'd say it was just her connection or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just give it a minute there. She should come back in. Apologies about this, guys. I would say she's having a small issue. What we might do is hold on.
Hey,
a
Kat.
sec. Hi,
Hey, she's
Kat.
coming on now.
Yeah, she's good.
Oh, can you hear me? I've just refreshed. It seems to
Yes,
have
we can hear
hopefully
you.
fixed it. I'm
Yeah,
not sure if you
yeah.
can
I
hear
can hear
me.
you. Yeah.
I don't see the PowerPoint just yet.
Oh, there we go. Oh, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see the screen?
So I have your screen share turned on now, Kat. Now we can see it.
Perfect.
Okay, guys. Without further ado, Kat, if you want to turn on or off your webcam for your presentation, that's up to yourself.
Okay.
So I'm going to hand it over to Kat Green for the next 30 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks so, Matthew, and apologies for that. Hopefully, it's worth the wait. It's so typically tested and it worked absolutely fine until the moment where you have to. So I am going to be covering Teams as a platform, 5 apps to improve your team's collaboration. So I introduced myself, but just a little bit about me. So I mentioned I was a Microsoft Solutions Specialist and where lies. I am a frequent conference speaker and I did just share my blog, collab.com, which shares tips and tricks on Viva and Teams, and subscribe. I also have my links underneath there as well. My email address, I'm on LinkedIn, and my Twitter handle is @greencat. Please feel free to connect. I'm always looking to expand my network with like-minded tech folk. Let's dive straight in because I've used up 5 minutes with technical issues. So, what we're going to be talking about today is Teams as a platform, and it's all about extending the capability of Teams. Now, we've been using Teams for those who started when it was first released, about 5 years. More organizations have been using it more recently in the last couple of years because of the pandemic, and we're used to the collaboration aspect, we're used to the meeting and chat aspect. Where else can Teams take us? Well, look at extending the capability with applications. And the types of applications that are available in Microsoft Teams are one, Microsoft apps. These are applications that you're familiar with. I think all of us use them day out. This is things like Office, OneNote, Plan, SharePoint, and so on. Applications available in your Office 365 subscription. It comes, you've got more than like have these applications integrate into Microsoft Teams. So when I log into Microsoft Teams, I join a team and a channel. I can use Office directly with my within. The other applications that we have, and I think I just got a notification through this issue, so let me know if the issue someone shout out is. But we have third-party applications, and available. There's actually now over 800 that are third-party apps. Are essentially organizations who have built and designed applications, got an agreement with Microsoft Store in Microsoft Teams. So now, as well as being able to add in things like Power BI, Word, and Excel, I now have the ability to connect Teams to third-party apps that sit in Microsoft. Some of those applications require additional subscription. Apologies, I can see the audio might not be coming through. You won't be able to hear my wonderful voice, but hopefully, let me just see if I can turn my. Of course, typically that should help. We then have custom apps. We have available in Teams, third-party app, and have the ability to build customizations. And this is where really, really exciting because so if you have a problem or something you're trying to solve, and none of the Microsoft apps will solve it, you've had a look at the third-party apps, but there's nothing really there that's going to solve the problem. You can just start to build it yourself and build an application or a process that's going to solve your business challenge. Now, within custom apps, we have a few different types of technology that we can use. So first of all, we have the Power Platform, which I think, if people who work on Microsoft and who work with Microsoft technology will be pretty familiar with it. But we have Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and also Power Virtual Agents. So this is something that we will get as part of Microsoft 5 licensing, and it's the ability to build our own applications, our own workflows, and our own kind of dashboards for data. Now, the Power Platform is quite nice. It's a good choice for custom apps. And the reason why it's a good choice is because it has lots of templates available. So you can build your applications and your workflows from scratch using the Power Platform, but there does have there is lots and lots of great templates. I'll show you some of those today that you can build from and extend as well. Another option is app templates. So app templates are a low-code solution, and Microsoft provide just over 45 different templates available, things that you can bring into Microsoft Teams. And the reason why app templates are quite good is because Microsoft provides you with the deployment guide, they provide you with the code, so you can actually extend and customize app templates to really make them bespoke and suit your business requirement. So app templates, I'll show you some examples of those, but they come in the form of, communication tools, bots that you can use, FAQ bots that you can deploy to end users, and lots more. The other option is to build something completely from scratch. So we can build bots, we can build messaging extensions, just about anything. This is kind of where you get into more developer territory. So where I work, I'm definitely not a developer, but our development team will, build things from scratch for our customers. What we can also do with this technology is extend it with adaptive cards. And the good thing about adaptive cards is that we can actually extend some of the Microsoft applications as well. And I'll show you an example of that a little bit later on. So let's dive into our first app that I want to make you aware of. And the first application I want to talk about is actually an app template. So where it sits in this kind of area is here, app template. So an app template is an application that Microsoft have created, and well, not necessarily Microsoft have created, but it's an app that is available on GitHub. Each app template contains deployment guides, code. It's updated from different MVPs around the globe. And it's the ability to bring it into Microsoft Teams, but also customize and extend it as well. Let me show you an example of an app template. The one that I always like to provide and make people aware of is the Company Communicator app, because for my customers, it solves so many problems. And the biggest problem it solves is company-wide emails. I think we all hate company-wide emails, and if we get rid of them, then that's a good thing. Because we have, 100 people in an email chain, sometimes more, and if you hit reply all, then we get into, clogging up our inboxes. So what we can do is we can use something like an app template to solve that business challenge. And we can use something like the Company Communicator app. And the Company Communicator app is a communication tool that we can bring into Microsoft Teams, which will send formatted communication to our employees through either Teams or a one-on-one Teams chat. And there's a couple of reasons why customers like this option. And it's because, one, it increases your reach. If we have an important announcement or notification for our users, for example, a change in a HR policy, warning about a phishing email, security and compliance communication. If I get a long-winded email come through and it gets lost in a chain of reply alls, I'm probably not going to read it. If I post something on news on my intranet, that relies on me actually going into my intranet and looking for that news. Whereas if I was to send a chat message to my entire organization, everybody would receive the notification, the ping, they click on it, they see the communication, and they're able to see the news. Let's take a look at the Company Communicator app. I'm just checking the time. As I mentioned, you get the architecture, deployment guide, documentation, FAQs, even a guide simulation, which I'll go through now, GitHub for you to use. And because they provide you with all of the information, you can choose to extend. What I'm showing you doesn't do what you need it to do, customize that code to make it work for you. So in this example, we have an organization to improve our employee experience and extend the capability of Teams and improve the communications strategy with our employees. So what we have is a communication department or communication team, or it could be a HR team. People who are nominated to essentially build the communication and send those out. You do not want your entire organization to send everybody a one-to-one chat message in Teams. That just defeats the point. The idea of this is that it's a set group of people who manage communication. And what you can see on my screen is in Microsoft Teams, I have a communication team that I've set up in a general channel. And we've actually added the Communicator app as a tab to my team. So what I can see in here is a list of communications that we have either in draft or that we have sent previously. So me and my communication team can actually have a track of what have we sent, did it get read, any bounce backs that we had, what date was it sent, what time, and so on. If I wanted to start and create a new message, all I would do is click on New Message. And in here, you can see it provides me with a nice formal formatted piece of content that I can share. So it's not just sending a one line of text chat message. We can add an image in here. We can add a title, even a summary, a blurb, a link through a button to another website. So if you do have a piece of news on a SharePoint intranet, you could link that in there so people can go to look for more information. So in here, I can customize the image. I can customize that text in here as well. I can even have an author. So do I want it to, be from the communications team or from the HR? And what I can then do is decide who I'm going to send that to and how. So I can decide we're going to send this either to a specific team, specific groups of people. I can send a one-on-one chat message to everyone, or a specific group, a security group, or an M365 group as well. So it's not just sending a one-on-one chat message. We can send it through a team as well, and to specific people instead of absolutely everybody in my organization. I can save that as a draft, and then when we're ready to send it, I can schedule it out to be sent to my entire organization so everybody can get that notification through. And this is what it looks like in a team. You see we have the title in here, the image, piece of text, and the button. So it's just a nicer way to send communication. But that's an example of how we can extend the capability of Teams by adding in this type of technology. It's not just apps that we can add a taskbar or as tabs. We can actually use it to communicate with our entire organization. I'm moving swiftly on just because I am aware of time. And the next application I wanted to talk to you about is Decisions. Decisions is a third-party app. So where it sits in this kind of slide I have here, let me just extend it for you. Do you know when yours goes wrong? It tends to throw you off, but here we are. So it sits in here. So the one that we just looked at was the app template. Now we're going to look at a third-party application, just to show you an example of, what if you extend it and there's a company that had an app that did what you needed it to do. Now, Decisions is one of my favorite third-party applications that I use, and it's all about managing meeting agendas. So what I can do is use Decisions to prepare for meetings with my colleagues. I can add Decisions to Microsoft Teams so we can track agendas. We can link it and integrate it with Microsoft 365 apps like Planner for tasks, Note, Word, integrates with the whole stack. We can assign tasks, we can manage decisions being made, and it can help us take minutes as well. And the good thing is that everything is in the one place. So let's take a quick look at Decisions. And now we're going to go to a demonstration and hopefully for you. So I have a team, Mark project team, and I'm in my general chat. And what I've done is I've just added the Decisions app as a tab. So I've just clicked on the plus button. I have Decisions in the App Store, and I have added it to my team. One of the things that you will just caveat that with is if you can't see Decisions in there, your organization a policy around third-party apps, and so that's why you might not see it in there. So ask your administrator if that's the case. But what I do is I can click on the Decisions app. What it does is it turns it into a Meetings tab. And I'll talk while this is loading for me. In the Meetings tab, what I will see is a list of all of the meetings that my channel has. So, in Microsoft Teams, we can connect a channel to a meeting. And with that, we're looking at a big list. Let's give this a refresh. We're looking at a big list of our meetings that we have scheduled upcoming and also past meetings as well. And for each meeting, I can keep a track of the agenda. Let's give this a refresh. My goodness. It seems the demo gods, the slide gods, everyone is against me. So we'll give this a second. And now it's frozen. We'll give this a second to load up. But essentially what I can do is click on one of the meetings that I have scheduled. Let's exit that and restart it. What I can do is I can add an agenda for either an upcoming meeting that I have, so I can prepare before the meeting. And I can add different agenda points for different times in the meeting. So if I have a 10 a.m. meeting, I can put an agenda point for 10 a.m. and then at 10:05, we'll go through this. And then at 10:15, we'll go through this. You can make it as granular and as detailed that if you want to. And you can assign presenters to that as well. So if I was to have introductions, agenda, there's certain things I want to cover, I could assign that to presenters so they know exactly when they need to speak and what they need to talk about. I can also add decisions as a calendar. I'll be able to go in while I'm just refreshing it. I'm describing it well enough. So I'll be able to actually add it as a tab to a Teams meeting as well. So I'll be able to keep track of my agenda for ad hoc meetings as well as team and channel meetings. While this is loading in the background, I will move swiftly on. But decisions, there's a little quick glimpse of it here. So in here you can see I have an agenda for a specific meeting, and we have review previous meeting, introductions, overall project, and I would assign that. And one of the nice things about decisions is it does integrate with Microsoft 365. I can actually add tasks, which will add a task to a plan in Planner. I can add notes, which can either be Word or OneNote. I can add custom buttons to there, so I could add a website or another type of app or link that I would want to include, or other documents as well that I can attach on there. So check out Decisions if you are looking for an app that can support meeting agendas. Okay, let's move swiftly on. The next one I wanted to talk about is actually an app that I've come across recently, and this is Employee Ideas. So Employee Ideas is an app that sits in the Power App and App Template category. So it's a Power App, which means we can customize it, we can extend it, but it is a template that is provided and created by Microsoft that we can use and very easily add to Microsoft Teams. And because it is in Power Apps, we do have the ability to really go in and customize it, make it more branded. In terms of the data, and pull that out with a workflow and a whole load of stuff that we can do with it. But Employee Ideas is, and we'll see if this is going to work for me, is an app is, I might have to just show you on the slides. Somebody's one already, which is great news. So it's promoting, Employee Ideas. So what we can do is we can add it as a tab to a team, and we'll have two tabs. We'll have an Ideas tab and a Manage Ideas. So the Ideas tab, you can see in here, is the ability for our employees to view campaigns. So somebody or whoever it is managing the Ideas campaign, it could be return to work, could be an event you have coming up, in-person meetings, workplace safety. There's some examples there. And within each campaign, where your employees can share ideas, and they can do that through Microsoft Teams. So what I can do is I can click to open a campaign. I see the detail about it, and I can suggest and submit an idea. I can, provide about what my idea is, how many people it will impact, and even add things like images on there. And the good news is that with campaign, they'll have a list of ideas from other employees, and we can like different ideas. So we can view ideas from most liked and most recently submitted, and get a view of that. And I can be notified when somebody submits an idea. So I can post in a Teams channel to say somebody's added for you. Might want to go check it out. And then from the Manage Ideas, I can delete campaigns, and expiry on the campaign, so automatically cleans those up, so to just make sure that they're all relevant. And in terms of customizing it, so and pulling out that data, you can obviously add our own branding in here, but it looks pretty good already. And we can workflows to pull out that information and Excel spreadsheet. We can put those ideas in a SharePoint, whatever we would want to do with it, we can do. And that's using a combination of Power Automate and Power Apps to customize it. And I'll see if up to show you. Okay, we're not, so we'll move on. Sorry, guys, so thank goodness I had some slides and had some screenshots to show you at least a bit of an idea. Okay, so the last couple of ones then to run through. Tasks by Planner. So I wanted this one. It's such a popular one, but I wanted to know being able to extend the capability of Tasks by Planner using a technology called adaptive cards. So as we know, I know PowerPoint to the rescue. Tell me about it. So this is actually looking at a Microsoft app planner, or Tasks by Planner it's now called, and extendability with the adaptive card technology down here. Now, Microsoft actually use adaptive card technology throughout Microsoft Teams applications. We just might not be aware of it, but it's the technology that basically is a formatted way to share information. So if I just see if it's gonna work here, because it's just absolutely killed it off, and we'll just see if I can show you, because I don't have any slides for this one. Let's just give this a quick refresh and see. Oh, it seems to be working. Let's hopefully this will work for you. While that's loading, then it looks like it's working, thank goodness. So we by Planner, so we can simple task management tool that we can add in Teams as a tab. I can assist to my colleagues and they'll be, automatically chased, which is quite nice. What I can actually do, as I mentioned, is extend that capability with adaptive cards. For those who don't know what adaptive cards is a technology used by Microsoft where I can share in a formatted way. So, for example, you can see some example cards in on screen at the moment. So we have the ability to share and post information card that we can customize how it looks, how it works, and what it does. And it's using what's called adaptive card JSON, which is the code basically that's building the adaptive card. Now, if you know me, I absolutely hate working with code. It just kills me. So what I do is I actually use what's called the adaptive card designer to build my cards. So all you need to do is copy and paste. And it uses a collection of technology like Power Automate, Teams. We're looking at Planner in here, a whole bunch of different technologies. But what I can do with adaptive cards is I can decide to either post news into a Microsoft Teams. So you can see an example of the news adaptive card here. We've got a title in here, we've got a bit of a blur, we've got a button, so an action where people can click them to news. We've got another one in here which is an input form, so just showing you how customizable the adaptive card is. We can collect data from our keys. And the one I wanted to show you, management, so we can connect this with Planner. So every time a task is completed, I can update the team and the channel with an adaptive card stating completed, here's the information, and add a link and a button to go and view the task in Planner. So let's just open our app and pray. It doesn't look like it is not fast enough for us anyway. But at least you see an example of it. So this, if somebody completes a task in Planner, it's going to post this card and we can customize that card. Okay, last one I wanted to talk about is HR support. This is a bot, and this is a mixture of let me just move on. A mixture of using Power Virtual Agent, but it's also an template that's available on GitHub. So we'll make sure the slides are shared so we can, there's a whole bunch of links that I've added into the notes and into some of these slides so you can go and find the specific app templates and where the guides are and where the information is. But this is one that we're going to look at with solution. It also means there is some code so we can customize it and extend it. So the HR, and thank goodness I do have a slide for this. I was going to show you Power Virtual Agents, the HR bot in there, but we're going to have to make do with the slides. And in here, it's a bot. So it's not an app necessarily that is, like the ones that we've seen previously. It's a bot. So it interacts with our users. And what we can actually do is create this bot so it will answer questions on behalf of our team. For example, if you have some typical questions that are getting asked, like I want to update my bank details, got a new address, can I have a copy of the latest employee policy handbook or safety guide, or all of these questions coming through to your HR team, they could be handled by a bot. So we could really save your HR team's time. And we've also seen a scenario of this being used for things like service desks. So it integrates with different tools like ServiceNow. So somebody wants to book equipment, if they want to reset their passwords, they just go straight to the bot. We're saving time. So again, we've got the links, the architecture, documentation. We've got all the information we need to be able to build this out. So we have the ability in here to go into Teams. They can open up chat and they can search for HR or whatever you want to call the bot. They can have a conversation with the bot, so they can say hi, and you can actually analyze the response when someone says hi. You can set business hours as well. So if somebody messages the bot out of hours, then they get a specific to tell them when you were in business hours. And you can see there's some things that we can configure. So if somebody asks about a referral program, do you want it to provide information? Maybe there's some links to further information that the user can access. And I can set that up so it automatically happens when the user asks about the referral program. And the nice thing about this is that you can choose the topic. So somebody talks about employee referral program, talk about referring someone else, someone I know wants to work here, all of these different variations, we can add those, but we'll still understand what's asking, even if they ask in a different way. And here, is there any other option to set up my salary? And I can see, here's what I found, share feedback, or so in here, we've got the answer, which I can link off to further information. And of course, allow the user to ask a human. So if they want to go to somebody in the HR team, they can ask that and the bot actually direct that through to the HR team. And what they can do is they can actually put it through to a HR team where we have the HR support bot being managed. And I can see in here any tickets or questions that are coming through. I can see when somebody's asked for to escalate it to someone in HR, and I can choose to assign those cases or those tickets through to me or someone else, and I can send a chat message to Alex and just chat with him directly. So there's a space for users to, and HR team to manage all of those questions coming through by the bot. So it's just to show you a variation of, there's communication tools, there's third-party ones that help with meeting agendas, we've got extending the apps we're already using, and we've even got bots. So hopefully today I've kind of shown you with some technical difficulties some of the ways that we can extend the capability of Teams. And if you think there's over 1,000 of different applications available and even unlimited possibilities with Power Platform, it gets really, really exciting without, making Teams go that one step further. So I hope that has helped understand Teams as a platform and given, apps to go away and look at. I couldn't show you in the demo today, but thank you so much. I realize I'm over time slightly, but I'll pause there and hand back to Matthew and Dan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kat. We really appreciate that. I have stopped the screen sharing. Some really interesting information on different apps and features for Teams and third-party solutions. Has anyone here ever used any of these in day-to-day work?
Yep.
Yeah. I've seen a few of them. I've seen a few of them online, and a lot of MVPs that have been posting about Teams and the different features. And as we know, Teams just went. I think what age is Teams, Dan? It's about is it 5 years? They said at this stage.
5 years.
Yeah. It's 5 years. So it's kind of become an integral part to our work life. So yeah, no, honestly, Kat, thank you very much for joining us, even with all the technical difficulties. We really appreciate that. Has anybody got any questions for Kat?
So, Kat, I got a quick question. So, one of the goals for Project Veteran House is to build a training platform or a training application. Right now, I mean, it's not on that piece, but I use Freehand by InVision to add in, and I use that to build out the website. And there's different things that helps with the preparation for some of the things we have coming up. But what is your suggestion for where to start building that, or to just put a prototype together?
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
This is just, that took me that whole time to unmute. Okay, so in terms of, interesting is Freehand. I have tried Freehand, but I find now they've added some new templates to the Microsoft Whiteboard. So previously, Whiteboard didn't have, the project and all of these great templates and mind maps that we could use, but they've added a lot more in. So yeah, just to make you aware of that. I'm always a Microsoft
Thank you.
advocate if there is an app available. But did you mean how do you start when it comes to finding apps for like out of because there's so many?
Right. So we want to brand it for us to go in and be able to, people sign up, the veterans go in there and they'll have different layers to the application that they can do training, they can do job finding, talk to a recruiter, just different things to make it easier on them. And I'm just the type of person, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So I just wanted to know what's a good starting point for that, if that makes sense.
I don't really understand your question. Sorry. And I don't know if it's because there's a bit of I think the thing's breaking up a little bit. So you wanted an app for recruiters. Did I catch? Sorry, I don't really hear you.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you there. Yep.
Okay, this is a little delay. Just the foundation to starting an application through Teams is the initial goal. So I was asking, what is your expertise on how to start that, or the fundamentals to get that started?
Fine. Sorry. Yeah, I got that. Oh my goodness, this is not good connection. So if you're going to look at, you've got a process or something you're trying to achieve and you need an app to fit with that. What I always say, we have customers who say, which app should I use? Well, the answer is, I wouldn't look at it from that perspective. I would look at it from the use case. So internally, whoever's going to be consuming that application, you need to sit with them and do use case scenario. What does success look like for them? And then you can map which application is going to be appropriate. And a lot of the time, the third-party apps or the Microsoft apps might not do it. So we might have to look at investing in customizing or extending some of the templates available. But I would say always start with your use case and then map the app to that rather than sifting through 1,000 apps. It's typically, how I would suggest customers to start.
Kat, I have a question for you. Your MVP journey, how did you get started in all of that? For other women that are listening in on this session, how did you get to the point you were at in, I suppose, a brief synopsis? How did you get known out there in the Microsoft and tech world?
So I would say share content to one, build your network, and to get recognized. So the way I started was I created a blog. I started posting about Teams. I made videos. I've also created a TikTok account, just anywhere to share information. And as soon as I started doing that, specifically on LinkedIn and Twitter, on Twitter, there's a huge tech community. People reached out to me for writing opportunities or podcasting or joining a user group. So I would say share your knowledge and content as much as possible from your perspective as well. Don't reshare stuff. Resharing is fine, but create your own stuff and share your own knowledge. And that's how it kind of skyrocketed my network and then leading to MVP.
I know we're sort of low on time for this, but question for you, Kat. The process of certifications, what is your input on them? Do you think they're valuable to IT professionals? And if you're starting with Teams, what would be the first one?
So I think, yes, they're definitely valuable, especially for people who I do a lot of videos on TikTok. I bring up TikTok, but that's where I do lots of videos. For people who are looking to get into the tech industry who don't have experience, which is where I was 6 years ago. And scaling up is one of the key ways that I recommend doing that. And so for Microsoft Teams, I would say even just the Microsoft 365 fundamentals is a good place to start, because Teams specifically, there is administrator exams that you can do if you're into Teams day in, day out. But for starters, I would get your fundamentals in place before you start looking at the specific exams, because all the technology integrates and works together. So you have to have that fundamental knowledge in place before you start going into the, specialist areas. So M365 fundamentals, and yes, definitely look at doing the exams.
That's perfect, Kat. Thank you so much. Look, I'm just conscious Kat has to jump off, everyone, and I want to give an absolute amazing thanks, Kat, for joining us on this session. I think we can all say we picked up something new on Teams that we actually didn't know. What you call it? I will be keeping an eye out on your blog and your LinkedIn and your videos on TikTok, and I'm sure in the future we'll be doing more collaborations with you, Kat. So you're a welcome guest to our sessions at any time you feel. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and apologies for all this, a bit of a mess, but we got there in the end, so thank you so much.
We did indeed. Thank you
PowerPoint for the
so
win.
much, Kat.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Mind
Thank you.
yourself. Bye. Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, guys. So that brings us to our first half, and what an eventful half it has been. We're going to go in a minute on we're going to go in about 10 minutes on a 5-minute break. So I just wanted to do a general quick Q&A. Did anyone, was there anything anyone wanted to ask on Kat's thing in terms of, did we all learn something new, or did we know it, or what do you think, guys?
Definitely a good experience.
Yeah.
Just learning just learning from like we talked about before, different MCTs, MVPs. It just brings you a broader spectrum of what you want to learn about. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then from a team's perspective, you work with it quite a lot, very informational and helpful.
Yeah, I don't do as much with app templates, so it's always fun to see different MVPs or even Office apps and services folks that might be more on the services or the dev side, or like Kat said, she doesn't like to develop, but she likes templates and the ability to start from something and then see it through, or even hand it over as a maybe it's a what do you call that, prototype, and then developers might enhance it, or get you to version 2 or version 3 of that, but being able to prototype quickly is super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Personally,
Um,
sorry, Matt. Personally, I used a bit of those cards that Kat was talking about. I was working in a company that was a Java house, so it was forbidden to say anything started with Microsoft. So they just hated, like, it was a tough sell. And at some point, um, they stopped using Slack, and they asked people to start using Teams, and there was like a lot of commotion, and people with pitchforks, fires, all of that. And we were using Bitbucket, and Bitbucket was sending messages when you created pull requests, and things were merged and errors, all of that. And we didn't have a connector for Teams, so I was investigating, and Bitbucket had a way to provide an endpoint API that Bitbucket would send those messages, and we didn't have anything that could get those messages and do something else. So I created like a very simple server that would get those requests, and then I would just compose the message using those cards that Kat was talking about, and then sending them to teams. And it was like a huge win. There were like other teams already trying to use that, and then extend it to other things. That particular one involved a bit of code, but it was a simple way to prototype and solve the problem because we didn't have a connector. So it was like something that you can do, I don't know, maybe in a day or something. You can get it, or even less. You can get something working and solve a problem until you tackle the bigger fish. If you are going to buy a connector or something in a corporate environment, you have to go to procurement, has to be approved. They will reach out to all of that, and you can just prototype and get something working, even without going into templates. The other thing that I used a lot was the employee ideas. Like, I'm a huge innovation fan. I'm always asking everyone to come up with ideas to improve things, and that's the easy way also to get something working, that people can easily manage the campaigns and all of that. and everyone can take part and take ownership of the success of the team or the organization or anything. And it's where we spend probably 90% of our days is on Teams. So why even consider some other platform to have that? And it's already there. It's free. It is click a few buttons, you get it sorted, and then you can rebrand it and create campaigns and all of that. And it's very easy to use.
That's super helpful, Ricardo. That was actually really interesting. I didn't know some of that stuff. From an Azure background, unless you're developing for teams or you're kind of integrating with it, you seem to learn something new about teams every day. Literally, there seems to be changes, and I think that's what was so interesting about what Kat was doing. She had up some of the cards and stuff, and we could see the kind of integrations that you can do with teams. Um, what you call it? I suppose she was unfortunate. She was unfortunate. The technical difficulties definitely didn't help for her.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
she look, it was super, super interesting. I'm sure with the next demo Kat will do for us, she might have a video or something that we can look at with the demos, and we'll be able to get that out there for people that are really interested, because Teams is where it's going in terms of communication. I mean, you do your voice, you do your video, you do Teams is integrated with SharePoint. You have your class, your groups, your PLC teams, all these kind of things, and it's huge in education. So I mean, that's where it's going. Teams was built for personal use, but it was also built to be an educational and a business communication platform, and it kind of excelled from when Microsoft had Skype for Business and MSN and all those kind of things back in the day, back in 2000, about nearly 20 years at this stage. But Teams is really it's used and it's here to stay. So it'll be interesting to see what Cat comes up with for our next event. Um, okay, guys, I'm conscious we are kind of behind a bit. So what we're going to do is after the break, we're going to have Christian. Christian, thank you for being with us. I know we've kind of delayed you now, but we're going to have a 5 minute break, and then we're going to have Christian is going to give a talk and presentation on security. So once we're back from the break, he's going to do that. Guys, we can all mute our microphones and cameras, and I'm going to go to a 5 minute break, and I'll see you all in 5 minutes. All right.
Sounds good.
All
Okay.
good. See you then.
Thanks, guys. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. That was the quickest 5 minutes in my entire life. I just want to welcome on Frank to the session. Frank Falvey, he has worked with us in the past and continues to support us. What you call it? Okay, so we have Matthew, we've Dan, we've Ricardo, we've Derek, we've Joseph, we've Christian, and we've Frank. Okay, so the agenda for the rest of the evening is Christian will give his presentation, and then Ricardo will give his, and then we'll do a general Q&A, and we'll discuss a few small bits and pieces. For now, I'm going to hand it over to Christian. And can everybody mute mics and video, please? Off you go. Thanks a million, Christian.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Matthew. So yeah, I'm just gonna go very, very briefly. Already went through intro, so just a couple insights about definitely my background. So for me, it's definitely around plus than 50 years the IT field. I actually started a couple of years in the open source space, and after that, definitely started working from a Microsoft partner, and the rest is history. So definitely the cloud has been an important milestone in my professional career, just before and after the cloud. So before the cloud, I used to work things around identity, of course, Active Directory, right management services, SQL Server, Exchange, and definitely glad to see that some of you are familiar with the old products. So we used to have Live Communication Server, then was called Office Communication Server, then was called Link, and now it's called Skype for Business. It's already in end of life. So that was before the cloud. So after the cloud, I would say the last 8-9 years, I concentrated more in technologies like Azure, Microsoft 365. As I said, definitely now I work directly for Microsoft as a trainer. That's why I spend my time nowadays. But I'm not into training. I've been an MCT since 2011, so just celebrating my 11th year for the renewal this year. And as you can see, I'm a huge fan of technical certifications. So definitely certifications is a great way to learn new things. By no means I consider myself a know-it-all. I consider myself a learn-it-all. So it's always a great way to learn new things and keep up to date. Nowadays, definitely things are changing very, very fast. So over the years, I achieved more than 50 Microsoft certifications. And of course, I explored a couple of certifications outside Microsoft space. So things like TOGAF, that's a framework for enterprise architecture, and ITIL, like kind of the things. So happy to connect with all of you. You have their link, QR code, that will take you to my LinkedIn profile. So happy to connect with a lot of you. And also have a blog. Fortunately, I don't have time to post as often as I would like to, but definitely just look, search for me on Twitter. Same link that I have on LinkedIn, Siddham Vergara, that will take you to my Twitter channel, that from there you can definitely go to my blog. So happy to be here. And let's discuss from now about certifications. So of course, definitely it's going to be around a year that Microsoft launched a new certification track, security, compliance, and identity, and we have a series of different exams. So SC 900, 200, 300, 400. And recently, actually, they added a new exam. It's currently on beta. You have the SC 100, is Security Architect. So for now, let's concentrate. Let me pass to the next slide. So let's concentrate for now on that SC 400. That one is for information protection. Interesting question, definitely, that we had before with Kat about definitely what will be the starting point. And of course, in this track, we have the SC 900. So the SC 900 fundamentals is always a good starting point. So from there is definitely what you can do with the platform, is a high level overview, what you can do in terms of security in Microsoft 365, what you can do also in Azure. Just kind of like a high level overview is always a good starting point. So from there, if you can specialize 200, more about definitely Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Microsoft Sentinel, 300, deep dive for Azure AD, and interesting solutions in the Microsoft Defender M365. And in this case, the SC400 is the Information Protection Administrator. So definitely Microsoft made a huge change in terms of certifications. Like 6 years ago, we moved from product-based certifications to role-based certifications. So definitely we hold certifications. Back in the days, we used to have, for example, a certification for SharePoint, a certification for Exchange. So those were based by product. So nowadays, certifications are only based by product, and instead of that are based for role. So definitely have certification for developer, architect, so on. And in this case of security, we have the information protection administrator certification. So how do you see the role? What the certification for? So you can see the certification is definitely for individuals that implements control around definitely compliance and governance. So a huge definitely risk when you're talking about that governance plan for a company is about definitely data loss. So basically with this training, will definitely help you to get up to speed and see kind of the components that they have in Microsoft 365 to implement information protection controls, and basically how we can mitigate that data loss risk. That's definitely what we have in this role. And as I was saying, definitely the role is the information protection administrator. It's how we see the role, and this is not necessarily kind of a perspective from Microsoft. It's not definitely how Microsoft sees the roles. It's more about definitely how the industry and third parties actually see the role. What is relevant in this case for the information protection administrator. And internally at Microsoft, we have something known as the JTA, is the job task analysis. And what happens during those JTAs, maybe some of you are familiar, I guess maybe you haven't participated in those, but on those JTAs, basically what happens is that Microsoft meets for a week with subject matter experts in the industry, different companies, definitely outsiders from Microsoft, that definitely have a specific experience on those topics. And during that week, we discuss about things like how we see the role, what you need to know to be successful on that role on a daily basis. And based on those discussions is when we actually start to create the content for the trainings and exam. That's basically what happens behind the scenes. And usually for those exams, we try to have a JTA once a year. And actually for SC400, we have the JTA back in January this year. So actually it was already a year since it was originally released. I had the opportunity to participate on the JTA in January as a course lead for SC400. So definitely have some interesting discussions and definitely see maybe how the role evolved in this time. And of course, there's always new services being added to Azure. And maybe you heard that now in Azure, we have a new service dedicated for information governance, and it's called Azure Purview. So definitely see relevant to add, for example, that topic into the content of this class. And definitely a couple of things that are changing. I will definitely mention what are kind of the new things and when that's going to happen. But as you can see, this is how we see the role, kind of the skills that are measured or evaluated during the exam. We concentrate in this case in trust-specific solutions on Microsoft 365. And those are, of course, the information protection solution, where you can create those sensitivity labels. There's also several ways to classify the data first. You have built-in options. You have even advanced solutions based on artificial intelligence models that you can use to classify data. After that, definitely you have data loss. So we have the solution data loss prevention in M365. And lastly, actually, we have a couple of solutions. We have information governance directly in M365. That's more about the retention and what happens when you no longer need that information, how to properly maybe dispose those records at some point of time it's needed. So you have questions about that on the exam. And once you pass the exam, SC400, then you will get the certification that is the Information Protection Administrator, and this is part of the associate level. So that's kind of what we have the certification. So in terms of that certification exam, let me pass the next slide to see kind of resources that I have to prepare you to tackle that certification exam. So several resources we have available. Of course, in this case, we have the official course for SC400. That's actually the one that I had a chance to teach from time to time. And we have also a bunch of different resources in Microsoft Learn. So just go to Microsoft Learn, you have all the content, you have exercises where actually you don't need to have an environment. You will have a sandbox environment provided to you. That's actually what you can definitely complete the exercises and learn. In some cases, you have videos. So great resources. And as always, Social Truth, the official documentation at docs.microsoft.com is always a great resource to be prepared. So typically, we'll spend maybe, depending how familiar you with those solutions, definitely you work in those things every day. Maybe you can take a couple of weeks to prepare and pass the exam, but maybe you're fairly new to those topics. I would suggest maybe spend at least a month reading out all the material, reading the exercises, and after that you should be ready to take the exam. In terms of the exam, as always, score over 1,000. You need to score at least 700 to pass the exam. So once you pass the exam, you will get the certification. Certifications nowadays basically are valid for 1 year. After a year, what happens, and maybe you folks tried this renewal process already, so it's completely free. You don't need to definitely pay again and pass the exam. That's no longer needed. All you need to do is go to learn.microsoft.com. You will see your certification in there, and you can just take a free assessment. After you definitely pass that free assessment, that basically will give you another year, and you can just keep renewing it, and certification will be valid for another year and so on. But the first step always to get the certification is to pass the exam. So that's still how it works. So let's take a closer look definitely specifically about the SC400 exam in definitely those study areas or objective domains that are regulated on the exam. We have those three: implement information protection, implement data loss prevention, and implement information governance. So those are the three definitely core elements and solutions that we see there that are definitely evaluated during the exam, and then you will get that certification. So they've shared with you some resources that can be useful to learn about specifically what is evaluated during the exam about those topics and how to ready and prepare for that certification. I'm planning actually on my blog to share a readiness guide to definitely study and get certification. I had the opportunity to prepare one guide, but at this point of time, is available only for Microsoft internal employees. I'm definitely planning to gather a lot of those resources and make that available at on my blog, so anyone can definitely leverage that, which is Microsoft FTEs. So definitely want to introduce the conversation about the certification, what's important, and as I said, some news about what's changing on the certification. And actually, after start, we're talking about what is important, and we talk about something known as Zero Trust. But before we move to that topic on the conversation, I just want to definitely mention a couple of exciting news about SC400. So what's changing? So after that JTA mentioned in January, we identified definitely new services and new topics that are relevant for the role. So we decided definitely to introduce those. So we'll be adding things like Azure Purview. We now have also something known as adaptive scopes to actually make rules that are more granular to target specific files based on conditions that you definitely need to automatically apply those rules to maybe, for example, restrict access to files or make sure definitely those files cannot be shared with collaborators outside your organization. So we definitely added all those elements, all those topics will be added into the exam. And of course, the official course, but definitely it's not an easy task. So definitely they're going to take some time. As we're speaking, definitely we're working on that new version of the class and the exam. We're planning a major release. Major release, it's coming on July 15th. So that's definitely when we have a newer version of the exam and the class with all those topics like Azure Purview, adaptive scopes will be added. And nowadays, SC400 is a 2-day class. And in a 2-day class, it's actually difficult to cover all the content. We have just some definitely a massive amount of content that is difficult to cover in 2 days. And if you're thinking that definitely now we're actually adding even more stuff, definitely is not manageable. So we decided actually to make this a 3-day class. So starting in July, it's not going to be a longer 2-day class. We're going to be a 3-day class. So definitely help us to cover all the content easily, and definitely we have labs as well as per the class, so more time to definitely go over the content, work on labs. So starting July 18th, all the classes will be definitely transitioned to a 3-day format. So definitely that's kind of the plans that we have for SC400. And with that said, let's talk a little bit about important topics. So first, those certification areas of the exam. I say those are the 3 certification areas that we have currently. That is not likely to change much in the newer version coming in July. Maybe just add some of those topics, those 3 areas. And you can see, always have those weights there on the right. So what those percentages mean. So let's pick up the first one. So the first study area or objective domain, implement information protection. So it's from 35 to 40%. So basically this means that on the exam, you can expect more questions about the topic. So heavily concentrate on that topic. As you can see, the other topics are also related, but in lower proportion. So a bunch of questions coming from that first topic on the exam. So as I said, definitely we share with you some interesting resources in preparation. So we can definitely go specifically what is evaluated in each one of those standard areas for the exam. So with that said, let's definitely see why is this important. And I think it's also part of how we see the role. And in terms of that, a very, very fundamental element that we have around security is zero trust. So maybe hear about that. It's definitely a new way of doing things. We try to move from that traditional security approach. The traditional security approach is about having a perimeter set up, having a firewall, and basically filter all the traffic flowing in and out of that firewall. But nowadays, that perimeter is non-existent. So nowadays we have mobile applications, and even in the current pandemic context, everyone's working from home. So we're definitely using a lot of VPN connections. Everyone is using a lot of mobile devices. So definitely that perimeter is not existent nowadays. And definitely that traditional method is not very effective. So that's the idea definitely with zero trust. Is not something actually that Microsoft created. Definitely was created by an outsider that actually started as a white paper and evolved over time. But definitely with Microsoft, this stick to us and actually we created kind of solutions that we definitely try to adopt and follow those guidelines from zero trust. So zero trust definitely has 3 key elements. One of those is definitely never trust, always verify. And every single, for example, request to access an application needs to be validated. And we know that we cannot just trust password. So the password is not an effective way to prove an identity and protect those identities. So we use multiple signals. So in combination, maybe we'll just analyze, for example, what kind of device you're using, what operating system, or is this a mobile device? So is this a device that maybe is joined to a domain? Or maybe it's a mobile device, it is a device that is enrolled in Microsoft Intune. So we'll consider all those different elements and signals to make a decision. So definitely once you consider all those elements, then you will see, okay, what happens next? You can definitely see in real time, also combined with other factors. We have great things like identity protection, Microsoft Defender, great solutions that can also provide with additional signals. For example, we can validate if maybe this is coming from a spoof IP or coming from a VPN connection, or let's say, typically, we'll also gather all that telemetry from your environment, and it will know, for example, that all users typically connect from the US or from Ireland, and what happens is maybe it's 5 a.m. on Sunday, and this user tries to connect from China, so doesn't look good. So we will definitely gather all that information in real time, and that will help us to make a decision. So once you analyze that, basically, and ultimately you will make the decision either you will allow access or not to those resources. And you can see that on the right, we try definitely to protect your most important asset, that is your data. So definitely that data is consumed and used by applications. So that's kind of definitely what we have for zero trust. And if some of you are familiar in Azure AD, we have something known as conditional access. So conditional access is a fairly interesting implementation actually of zero trust. So with conditional access, you can gather all those signals. So when those users from these sources, these locations are accessing to this location or to this application, maybe request a multi-factor authentication or maybe a denied request. So that's definitely a nice implementation of zero trust. So we have a set of different resources. You can actually even do a free assessment to see where you're at and how you can take it to the next level. Also, we have those Microsoft training days. Those are 2-day events about different topics and included, of course, the fundamental classes. So you can actually sit on those Microsoft training days events for free and actually get a voucher for the fundamentals certification exams. And actually, I had the opportunity to record an event about Zero Trust. So that was a Zero Trust 2-day event that actually is also offered as a Microsoft training day. I think actually, Matthew, you were on that event, I think, maybe. So yeah.
Yeah.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Christian. I was definitely at that. Just for the folks on this session, both myself and Christian, I would have attended most of his training days when I started my Microsoft journey nearly 2 or 3 years ago in the new role-based exams. So Christian has quite a lot of content up there on Zero Trust, on security, on all that kind of stuff if you're interested in it. So you should definitely try and check it out. And I'm sure if people aren't sure about where to get it, I'm sure you'd be happy to point them, wouldn't you, Christian, to where to get that material and to look at it.
Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, really appreciate it. So definitely highly recommend it. A lot of free resources. I think that's how we met with Matthew. He participated on one of those events. He just reached out to me on LinkedIn, and that's how we connected. So yeah, take a look at those. It's great and free stuff. So that's definitely kind of an intro of Zero Trust, but definitely connecting the dots. In this case, how Zero Trust is connected with the SC400 certification and information protection. So at Microsoft, we developed an approach, and the approach is basically how to effectively protect your data. We have basically 4 stages. The first stage, of course, is to know your data. So definitely need to understand where the data is created, so what kind of applications and users are basically interacting really to create and manipulate that data. So maybe using Teams, using SharePoint, using something else, or putting all the data in file shares. So definitely need to understand what's going on with that information. And with that massive amount of information, usually one of the first steps is to classify the data. So out of that classification process, you will then find maybe that information that is publicly available, so anyone should be able to access it. But maybe you have some information that is more sensitive in nature, so it should be marked as confidential, and maybe only individuals internally at your company should be able to interact with those records. And maybe have even like another type of records highly confidential, that only a handful of individuals within the organization are allowed to access the information. So that's definitely kind of the first step, know your data and work on that classification. So once you have classified the data, you can move to the next stage, that is to protect your data. So identify that those assets that contain confidential information, then you may want to protect those. And make sure definitely put restrictions, so that way only those individuals that are allowed to access those records can definitely do that. No one else can definitely access those records. In some cases, you may want to restrict just to read-only access, and maybe some individuals shouldn't modify some files. So it's all about definitely putting those restrictions in place and protect your data. A huge part of it also will be about encrypting the data. So it will be important maybe to encrypt that data, so with permissions fly with those files. If someone tries to actually copy those files or encrypt it, so you may need to authenticate to decrypt the content. So once you've done that second stage, protect your data, you can move to the third stage. So third stage is prevent data loss. So when you prevent the data loss, it's about definitely avoiding those files to maybe be accidentally shared with some individuals outside your organization. So at that point of time, definitely, in some cases could be accidentally or naturally accidentally, but some folks can maybe share those files containing confidential information outside your company. So you may want to prevent that. So that's actually what you can do with the DLP solution in Microsoft 365. Proactively identify those records that contain confidential information and block, for example, those to be shared with individuals outside the organization. You can even actually also integrate this with, we have that Microsoft Defender for cloud apps. So definitely for mobile devices, popular nowadays, you can integrate and basically just easily apply the same classification resources and the same restrictions on those files using the DLP solution. And when definitely avoid that accidental data sharing outside the corporate boundaries. Now we can definitely move to the last stage, that is govern your data. So in terms of zero trust security, is always important at some point of time, validate basically when data reach their useful lifetime. So in some cases, maybe you get that data that, let's say, after 10 years or 15 years is no longer needed. You may also, in some cases, may like to ensure that the information is stored for, let's say, the last 7 years, like 8 years. So we have definitely regulatory bodies like SOX and others that actually request us to make sure that the records for the last 7 years are available. So that's definitely all about the last steps governing your data. So definitely you can implement the solution to make sure definitely those records either are stored for the last 7 years or last 9 years in a specific criteria you can make there. And also what happens when they reach the lifetime. So you can actually automate, for example, the deletion of those records once those are no longer needed. So definitely that will help us reduce the attack surface that typically hackers would like to definitely gain control of those records. It will be just easy to delete those records if those are no longer needed. So that's what you can do definitely with that solution that you have there in govern your data. Fairly interesting. You can also customize that when that expiration time will start. So maybe when there's a specific event, let's say someone leaves the company or something like that, fully definitely customizable experience that you have on that last stage. And those are kind of the first steps. And as you can see, those can be easily aligned definitely with those elements and recommendations that we have from Zero Trust. So we have the Microsoft Information Protection, how this is aligned with Zero Trust. So in terms of Zero Trust, as you can see, is all over data-centric approach. They have the Microsoft Information Protection, so it can help us to also classify the data as the first step. So data classification, multiple methods. So of course, you can use regular expressions, or if files contain on the content or on the file name specific words, keywords, definitely those will be a match for that classification engine. Could be also things like artificial intelligence. You can actually create databases of records, and if any of those records match that, those should be classified as maybe containing confidential information. So it's all about definitely apply that in independently of the type of device. So either it could be desktop or mobile devices. It's all about definitely making sure we put those restrictions in place to block the access to those files that shouldn't be authorized, adding labels, quarantine those files, definitely preventing that definitely corporate egress. That is also part of the DLP solution that can definitely help us to honor those basically tags and labels that we added to records, and make sure definitely that those files are not disclosed outside the company. Of course, has tons of different tools that can help us to audit and create those analytics, so we can definitely track and monitor what's going on. Maybe someone tried to share those confidential files with someone outside the company. It can actually create an incident, so we can definitely look up why that happened. We can definitely investigate. We have all that forensic detail available. And lastly, definitely has those options, let's say, to auto classify. You can actually even use machine learning. That may sound complex, but actually is a very simple way to actually use models that behind the scenes will use machine learning to classify the data. It's very simple. You have a graphical interface that you can decide basically how that model should react. And it can actually be auto-trained over time if needed, so you can have more accurate results. So that's all the things that you can do with the Microsoft Information Protection solution. As I said, this is how it's aligned with that Zero Trust strategy. So with that said, I just would definitely like to provide you with some useful resources. So first of all, definitely you're not sure where to start with that journey into that security and compliance identity track. Just go to that first link, AKWS Security Train Deck. You have to have like a nice journey that tells you, okay, start with fundamentals and then explore this depending on your interest, what you like to learn. You have also a set of different resources. One of my favorites will definitely be all that content available for free in Microsoft Learn. We have also that tech community is a great resource. We have all the Microsoft Learn blog, where you definitely have access to that SC100 certification I mentioned, Architect, brand new one still in beta. So we have also Microsoft Learn on Twitter and LinkedIn. So great and useful resources. And lastly, as I said, I would recommend also take a look at those Microsoft Training Days. Highly, highly recommended. So call to action, definitely look for those Microsoft Training Days, look for those resources, and pursue that certification. So that's the last slide of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian. I really appreciate it. What you call it, Christian? I would love if you could hold on a bit till the end, just for some Q&A with you. I have questions that people have asked me that they want me to ask you. So, do you think that's something you can do? Ricardo's
Sure.
going to speak briefly, because I know he has to go as well. So if that would be okay, is that okay with you, Christian?
Sure, no problem.
Perfect. So, in the spirit of things, I would like to, I presume Ricardo is still there. You are, Ricardo. Yeah. I'm going to share Ricardo's presentation. Can we have all mics and cams off? Thank you. Over to you, Ricardo.
Thank you, Matthew. So hello again. My name is Ricardo Joya, and I would just like to share with you some tips and tricks that I picked up along the way. We're talking about certifications and learning new things, new skills, and all of that. And as a self-taught developer, this has been my life. So I just wanted to share my story with you. As I said, my name is Ricardo. I'm from Portugal. So for those who maybe didn't go there yet, so there's this particular monument that you have in Lisbon. It's the Tower of Belém. And the other thing that or the most, the thing that people know the most is the custard tarts that are called pastéis de Belém. And they are just across the road. So if you go to one place, you have definitely to go to the other one. I have a picture here of my family. So my wife and the three kids. Miguel is the older one, Maria, and Martin is the little fellow there. He's 3 years now, and he was born in Ireland, but he's Portuguese. He didn't get the nationality. I was working for BD until today. Today was actually my last day as a team lead for a developer team. And funny fact or not, I had a grunge band back in the late 90s, and we recorded three tracks that I created, MP3 files. And it's not readable, but there's a www address, and that's how the thing with development started for me. I created this page for the band, and we got three MP3 files uploaded, which was very innovative for the late 90s. And I started getting contacts from all around the world, and I think that's what got me into development and web development. Just to see, I don't know, other people and reach out to more people. So I'll be brief, and I'll just talk a bit why I think it's important to stay relevant, my experience, some of my favorite resources, and yeah, if someone wants to share your story, I'll be delighted to hear. So why do I call this practice blade sharpening? I'm a huge fan of Japan and the culture, the Bushido with the samurais and all of that, and of course their traditional sword, the katana. It's usually associated with ninjas and all of that, and everyone usually in this field, IT, when someone is really good at something, they say that they are a ninja. So if you are a ninja, you need your blade sharp, and that's why I call this blade sharpening. It's just a process of getting up to date and learning new stuff, new tricks or new skills that you can use on your work and just get better at it. So the reasons of why I think people should stay relevant. I mean, like, the only constant in software development is change, and maybe it's not only on software development. So anything on IT is constantly changing. New features are being added to Azure and all of that. You need to keep track with everything that it's being added. You need to know all the best practices and the technologies and how services are changing. Years ago, we didn't have all of these options that we have now. Um, Serverless and all of that, and I don't know, there's so much things happening all the time that you just need to keep up to date. Of course, all of this knowledge and experience will bring you career opportunities. um, and So all of those new problems that your customers will bring to you, or if you're starting a business, um, you'll need to think you're going to need to think about the solutions and how to implement them and how to solve them. So that's definitely a good motivation to keep learning how to solve better the problems of your customers. Of course, you can do that also for curiosity, because you have a personal project and you want to create the next unicorn. You never know. Or just because you like to learn. So any reason is good. Just keep doing it. So one question that I was asked was, what was my speciality or my specialization? My specialization is not to be specialized in anything. So usually people say that people that are not specialized are jacks of all trades, masters of none. I think it's actually a trait. Um, I know a bit about multiple things. I'm not saying that if you are a specialist, it's wrong. It's just that I just like to know a bit more about different things. And often I see this meme shared, like full stack programmers. They do twice as much as they should, and half as well as they could. And there's a huge demand for companies from companies nowadays for people that are flexible and can adapt to change and can work in different areas depending on what's the requirement. So that's definitely a skill that you can or you might want to work. So some places that I worked, there was this concept of a T-shaped developer. So the long leg of the T is your strongest skill, and then the top part of the T is the different things that you know. So for instance, I'm like a full stack developer. I worked most of my career in the back end, but I also like to do front end. I have concerns with security, um, um, usability, um, accessibility, all of those things that sometimes are not something that a typical developer, or at least back in the day, they didn't think about. I like to have those in mind, and I like to be in touch with the business. I like to talk with the customer. So I like to do different things that usually people don't associate as developer. And I worked in places that they just wanted a T-shaped team. They wanted developers that did the testing. They could write user stories. They could do everything. So yeah, they want someone that can do everything and get just one salary. Unfortunately, they don't pay you one salary for each skill that you bring to the table. Maybe that's something that will change in the future. But anyway, you can easily adapt to anything, and you can just do your job with a insight if you just know how the other parts work. So I just googled for T-shaped, and I found a few headlines. So some links below, like one of them at Forbes, so that they are advising managers to look for T-shaped developers, and some tips on how to become one, and all of that I was saying, and much more. So I'm a huge fan of this movie, The Matrix. I don't know how many of you watched it, and I'm already telling my age, how old I am. This was like a huge movie when it came out, and it's still huge for me. There's this particular scene where this character Trinity and Neo are at the top of a building, and there's this helicopter. And Neo asks Trinity if she knows how to fly the helicopter, and she says not yet. She makes a call. to to Tank, that was the operator for their endeavors, and she asked him for a program for the helicopter, and in a blink of an eye, she knows how to fly the helicopter. This is how easy it was, but this is how I sometimes explain um, to people how they can learn stuff. They just access some resource, like some that was mentioned before by Christian, was Microsoft Learn. I used before one thing that existed, that was Microsoft Virtual Academy. Then it was terminated, and now there's the Microsoft Learn. So there's definitely loads of resources that people can use to learn and to know, pick up new skills and get better, and get prepared to do certifications and all of that. So the actual effort is not as easy. So sometimes I don't have any patience to do any of that. Sometimes I just get lost on what I'm trying to learn. Loads of time when you're doing some training or reading a book or whatever, they reference something else, and then you realize that you want to know more about that, and I keep just jumping from content to content, resource to resource, until I get the information that I want, and then I have to go back and do it again. And of course, family. Um, yeah, all of this comes with a cost, and I sometimes I don't spend as much time as I could or as I should be doing with the family, and sometimes I just have to lock the door behind me, or I have to stick the kids to the floor so I can just finish something that I need to do. And yeah, it's you have to find a balance, I suppose. So common issues that I face, it's like what I want to learn. There's so much things, so many offers. I just try to focus on my needs. If I'm working on a particular project and I need to know something that it's important, I just focus on that. Sometimes I just see a tweet, or I see YouTube video or something, I don't know, and I really want to know more about that. So I always have to pick what I want to learn, in which priority. I easily get distracted, and I jump from resource to resource, and then I have to go back and continue what I was. Life, of course, gets in the middle. Projects change, requirements change. I start learning something, and then I can't do it, or I start reading a book, and I get like half of it or something, and then I don't have the time anymore. And sometimes, is it worth? Is it something that I'm learning and I'm actually going to use it anytime soon, or I'm just learning because I'm curious, and you don't use it, you lose it, and after some time, you can't do anything. But at least I think what I take from this is that I definitely can hold a conversation, at least at the basic level, with someone and say, "Oh, I know how this thing can be used, and what's the advantages or disadvantages, and why we should consider this solution instead of something else." They say that when all you have is a hammer, everything that you see looks like a nail. I'm not a big fan of using the same tools over and over to do different things. I like to use the right tool to solve the right problem. Um, and I think that learning different things and just considering different ways to do things, it's a good skill to get. And technology is just a means to an end. So we have to pick up the best technology to solve the problem at hand. So as I mentioned, I'm self-taught developer. I had some training, of course, but most of the things that I do, it's based on my research and my learning. I just find a resource that works for me, and I just take it from there. I started working with PHP. I developed a content management system, and I was working with my wife as freelancers, creating corporative image and websites and so forth for some time. PHP was free, the editor was free, and back in the day, Microsoft, everything was paid and very expensive. When .NET came out, I read the book, but yeah, I couldn't afford Visual Studio. There wasn't this concept of community editions and stuff like that, so I just went with PHP. Flash used to be a thing back in the day, There was this company called Macromedia, and then Adobe bought it. It was used until some years ago. I think it's not that used anymore. Um, and when I was doing this, it was mostly with trial and error. And later I found the resource lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning. If you are doing any training on LinkedIn Learning, some videos still show the lynda.com watermark, or they might even mention it. And that's how I found these video resources that, I don't know, just work better for me. Around 2011, I got my first developer job. Actually, I was hired because I had some JavaScript and PHP skills. I did like a month of JavaScript. I never touched PHP, and I moved to C Sharp. There was a project that the company was, or my team was working on, and they needed um, developers with C Sharp. So I had some experience, and I started working on that. But I needed to ramp up fast, and I did a quick search. Lynda.com didn't have anything, or it wasn't good enough, and I found some banner. I don't remember exactly when, if it was at some Microsoft Channel 9 or something. I saw a banner saying Pluralsight, the hardcore training, something like that. So that's how I started using this. So this gave me a huge advantage. I ramp up very fast, and I started to be more productive on my team. And at some point, I was already supporting other developers with the things that I was learning. So I would just get home, learn as much as I could, and then go to work and try to use and to show what I was learning, and then repeating the same thing. So loads of evenings and weekends that I spent just learning stuff until my head would explode. But yeah, that's something that I needed to do. That's what helped me to get to where I am today. So my favorite resource is, of course, Pluralsight. I use it a lot. Maybe not so much these days because there are so many things others that I can use. LinkedIn Learning. One of the things that I love about LinkedIn Learning is that they have an Android um, application that you can use in your car. And sometimes when I'm driving, like I'm commuting to work or something like that, I just pick some course on team management or leadership or innovation, something like that, that I don't need to watch. And I just play it, because also this application don't have video, it's just audio. And just instead of listening to radio the same songs over and over, I just try to learn a new skill. So this might be something that you might consider. So another resource that I use is Thinkster.io. The CEO of this company is Joe Eames. He created some content at Pluralsight, and is one of the my favorite authors when I started using Pluralsight. Recently, I heard I saw a video on YouTube on a channel. He was talking about Thinkster.io. They have a free course for Angular. If you are interested in knowing more about Angular, it's definitely one of the best courses that I think it's available. It's about 13 hours with loads of exercises, and it's free. It's totally free. You can just watch it and see if it works for you. I've been working with Angular for some years, especially when onboarding new team members. Other resources are given to them, then I give them this resource, and all of them, or most of all of them, say that this is much better than anything else. So I always recommend this one. Pact, they have books, they have videos. I often publish some reviews for them for their books. The last one that I published was the software architecture with Azure and .NET. It's from Gabriel and Andrezo, I think. Gabriel already spoke on Cork.net and Azure meetups twice. It's a very good book if you are considering to move to an architect role, or you just want to know how the process works. Microsoft Docs or Microsoft Learn, there's plenty of information there, paths and all of that, information about certifications. I used Coursera and edX. Of course, blogs, meetups, and pair programming. You can learn a lot by working with someone else and pairing. So this is my story, what I've been doing, and how I ramp up my skills, and how I try to keep my blade sharp and stay relevant in the market. Thank you for joining today. You can follow me on these social networks, Twitter. It's probably the easiest way to find me, or LinkedIn. I have some videos on YouTube, and just feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much to Ricardo for joining us. I really appreciate that. Thanks a million, Ricardo.
Thank you for the
And
opportunity.
hopefully we'll have you again on another session. Again, apologies for the delays this evening due to technical difficulties we had earlier. So thank you for your time.
Thank
It's
you. My
valuable
pleasure.
and it's appreciated. Mind yourself, Ricardo.
Thank you. All right.
Bye, Ricardo.
Thanks.
Okay, so I just want to say an absolute thank you to everyone, obviously. Right, we're going to jump into our Q&A because I have had questions from people online. Christian, I want to introduce Derek Spring. He is a colleague of mine that we work together in NTES in Limerick in Ireland. We're a Microsoft Gold partner. So our job is to provide the best of Microsoft solutions to our customers. And I try my best to provide the best of Microsoft to people in a non-profit situation through my Focus IT website, LinkedIn Learn, all that kind of stuff, YouTube, everything. Derek, do you have any questions you wanted to ask Christian? Christian is a lead Microsoft trainer, and he works in Microsoft. So I'm sure you might have a question or two.
Hi, Christian. Yeah, security is an area I'm fascinated by, to be honest, and it's definitely an area I want to delve into. So, however, I'm interested in various aspects of IT, of course. But how did you know security was the area you really wanted to get stuck into and learn more about?
Good question. It's a good one. But yeah, also I share that fascination as well for security. And I think that for me, the moment was on my early stage in my career. When I would say one of my first jobs, I actually had to configure Linux servers. Back in days, Red Hat servers. And actually, part of the job, I also had to configure checkpoint firewalls. So I'm definitely kind of like, hey, I configure the firewalls. I definitely need to deep dive how this works in layer 3, layer 4. So I was fascinated by it. And kind of the first time I deployed a firewall and actually make, for example, a website accessible over public IP. I say, oh, wow, so it's on the internet and it's accessible, but it's protected by this device. So I was just fascinated by that fact. So I think that's definitely when I started definitely getting that fascination for security, and later on definitely whenever there's an opportunity, for example, when I was deploying a Windows server, and definitely how I can harden that server, how to make sure that this is configured in a secure way, and definitely I was trying to learn, how to do it. And definitely back in the days, kind of right management services was also a huge thing I was doing with mostly banks at the time. Now definitely see how this evolved, what we have now in Microsoft Information Protection. We have great things in Azure like Sentinel and other stuff. So that definitely keeps evolving every day. But I think definitely that's how that fascination started by security.
Yeah, thanks for telling me that anyway, because I kind of with networks when I was doing it in college, learning about like routers and switches, and first kind of step of security I learned with those was like static IP addressing and access control lists, so I was like, I kind of like the control, the way you could just stop things from having access. And so it was certainly an area I am definitely going to look into doing the Microsoft fundamentals, and security and networking are two of the areas I'd like to look more into. So thanks for telling me how you did it anyway.
Thank, thank you, Christian. Thanks, Derek. Christian, I do have a question just for the people watching us. Okay, so I've introduced you to Derek. Unfortunately, O'Barry and Jennifer aren't on our call today. There are two other ladies in tech that work in our team. They have an interest in security, right? Where would you start off with in terms of Microsoft? I'm gonna speak solely just on the Microsoft stuff because this is a Microsoft call and not introduce other vendors here. Where with that would you start for people that want to start with security? Would I be right in saying you wouldn't just go straight off to doing your associate exam? You might benefit from doing the fundamentals first just to get a good aspect like the SC 900.
Yes, absolutely. I will definitely suggest a good starting point. I will suggest actually a couple of fundamentals. I will suggest the SC 900. Definitely going to be like the big picture, high level overview, where you can do an M365 and Azure. And I will suggest also the Azure fundamentals, because in the Azure fundamentals, I know we briefly talk about things like a DDoS protection and Azure firewall. So still definitely kind of like just to give you enough information what you can do with that. And definitely after that, you can explore. So definitely like to concentrate in Azure AD or M365. You can pursue the SC track. Otherwise, even actually the AC 500 is a great one actually afterwards. Security engineer will definitely go deep dive what you can do specifically in Azure to protect your data, protect your applications. Is a great one. Yeah.
Christian, I'm going to try not to ask too many questions, but I do have people that have asked questions, so I'm going to try ask them on this session, and then if we're lucky enough to get you back again, we'll ask you more. I want to introduce Joseph. Joseph is the founder of Project Veteran House in the US, and because you're both kind of in the US and stuff, Joseph, have you any questions in terms of how Microsoft could help Project Veteran House in terms of exams and voluntary charity stuff that Microsoft do? Is there anything you want to ask Christian around that? He might be able to answer or point you in a direction. We can't hear you, Joseph.
Sorry. Just trying to find like the resources. A lot of times I've heard that like at AWS, I know this is Microsoft talk, but they have programs where the veterans will come in and they have a internship program. And so what our goal is to get the transitioning soldiers that are this ETSing and coming out and get them in a success plan pretty much. So, free the Microsoft certification training. That's where we're kind of stuck right now, is getting the grants and things to pay for the certifications, because our goal is not to have the veterans pay for anything. So you just want to be a smooth transition so that they can come in, transition from the military. And if anybody knows how that is, it's very difficult. So trying to make the transition smooth for them. And that's where we're at, as far as what we're looking for and what we want to go towards.
Nice. That's great. Now definitely have some interesting progress in place, and definitely the idea is we know have soldiers in the market. We don't have definitely enough people that know security, and I know definitely have like that program you mentioned that definitely try to definitely help veterans to get the certification. I would like to help them to be effective and definitely to enter the market and definitely help to close the gap.
Yeah, and the ultimate goal is to make our own application, training application for the veterans, so that they'll have tools and different sites so that they can have everything that they need to be successful.
Okay, so Dan and Frank, have you any questions for Christian? Just while he's on, I'm sure you might have a question or two.
Yeah, Christian, thanks so much. Joseph, the other thing I'd add is that there are free exams that you can take from a Microsoft perspective, especially the fundamentals exams or the Azure exams. And a lot of times those are allowed just for going to like a free webinar on either exam prep, that type of thing.
Okay.
But Christian,
Awesome.
great to meet you. It's interesting. I think I surprised you with a special guest who came in. That's me. So Satya is not on the call. That's me logged in as somebody else. But one of the number one phishing issues is something like this. Maybe thinking that the CEO of your company is on a call and being concerned about that, or in the chat, hey, can you quickly get on a call with me or something. Any thoughts on the phishing issues we've had in the past, or ways maybe to address that? Let's say Satya came on and asked us all to do something right now, and maybe it was in his voice. I could use a couple phones and make it sound like he's talking to us. Any thoughts on how to maybe corroborate? Is this really the CEO of Microsoft, or is this somebody else?
Nice one. Yeah, absolutely. Like always, also an interesting, definitely element in security is definitely that social engineering, and it's definitely about kind of how we can exploit definitely those methods. Definitely maybe claim the identity of someone else, and ultimately they can definitely lead to phishing or other things. But yeah, that social engineering, how to definitely validate identity. I think that the thing is nowadays we don't need to protect just the data. Data is important. We also need to protect our identities. And in terms of that, definitely can use great things nowadays. Definitely password. We know password is not a way to protect your identity. So definitely use multi-factor authentication. So definitely with the first thing, make sure you have that enabled. So definitely multi-factor authentication is just not about knowing the password. It's about definitely have something that proves that you claim the person you claim to be. So definitely have maybe like a phone or a token, or even better in Windows Hello, you definitely have like that facial recognition or fingerprints. That's definitely even better to prove the identity. So definitely say that in terms of technology, there are a lot of things that we can definitely use to mitigate that risk. But the other thing is definitely kind of like we can do without technology. And always definitely like if there's a sense of pressure or urgency definitely on those attempts or requests, definitely just pause, think about it, and definitely see if indeed maybe this is the person or not. Definitely always have that doubt. I would suggest definitely something that you can do without technology. Just definitely pause and think about it first, and before you make any decisions. And
Christian, I question for you. So, what are the chances of getting Satya to actually come onto one of our sessions, seeing as he seems to sign all the Microsoft certifications? As far as I know, he is the Chief Executive Officer for Microsoft still. What's your weight in terms of that? I have to ask the question.
yeah, what are the chances? So no, definitely it's like definitely difficult to definitely trust that. And yeah, first thing that maybe you see that you can be surprised that maybe it's him. So yeah, you will be surprised. But yeah, always definitely like first think about it, take a minute to think, and definitely after that pause and decide what you will do.
Can I just get a show of hands for how many people actually thought he was on the call before Dan told everyone he wasn't on the call?
Yeah, like the first second
Yeah,
I saw
yeah,
that.
definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll be honest. I think I text Ricardo. Ricardo said to me, he's not on the call, is he? I said, yeah, he is. And then about 2 minutes later, Dan said, that's actually not Satya, it's me. And I said, that was an interesting way of introducing security at its finest, because I saw the name, I let it through onto the webinar thinking it was him. So it just goes to show even the best of the best in cybersecurity can be tricked very easily. So yeah, no, as Christian said, it's a good example of how security and what Dan said, how we can show off that it is someone, but it's actually not them phishing and stuff. So yeah, no, very, very appropriate to our webinar and live session tonight. Frank, have you any questions for Christian?
Christian, thanks for coming along. Great Great deck there tonight. With the certifications, would you recommend people do the AZ900 before they touch any of the security?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That would be the first step. I would recommend definitely folks don't do it like me. I do it the opposite way. And actually, when I complete all the Azure track, I first completed the architect one, then I took the security one, then I took the admin, and the last one that I took was the fundamentals, this 900. And when I was doing those exams, I was saying, actually, my maybe have taken the administrator first. There's a lot of things that I can leverage for the other one next. So definitely wrong order. Always definitely good starting point. First step in terms of security, definitely highly recommended. SC900 fundamentals, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And what is your take, Christian, on the way Microsoft have? Because I think anyone doing exams now knows that Microsoft have cut the time by 30 minutes for most of the exams. What is your take on that? I know you're going to have to speak politically correct here, but do you think that was fair considering the amount of content that is in the exams lately? Especially if you're taking the likes of, I took about a year ago now, the AZ104, and from what I understand, the exam is pretty beefy now at this stage. And it would be the same with the beta that just went for the Azure Solutions Architect, the 305. That's gone from an okay exam to now it's a lot more difficult than it was when it came out. Like, do you think it's justified, or do you think it's because they're discovering that people don't need as much time in these exams, or are there less labs going into the exams, so if they're cutting it down?
Yeah, that's a good point. But no, definitely think like that was a data-driven decision. Definitely during the exam, there's a bunch of different telemetry that is used during the session. And for example, when you start the exam, you have a survey that tells you, hey, what's your experience in each one of those different topics. And a lot of folks, for example, are afraid that if I choose I'm proficient on this topic, I will get a more complex exam. That will not affect at all the complexity of your exam. It's just more about the telemetry that we gather to understand the profiles of all those individuals sitting on the exam. And after that, of course, we'll analyze it in things like, for example, how much it took for you to complete each question and overall the exam, how long it took to complete the exam. And after that, we analyze all those records. So based on that, definitely identify that, as you described, 90% of individuals definitely didn't need all that time. So that's definitely why I decided to reduce the time a little bit. And nowadays, I'm not wrong for the fundamentals. I think the time now is around 90 minutes maximum. And for the role base, either the associate or expert level, that one I know for sure, you have 140 minutes. And just specifically to answer the questions, you have 120 minutes. And knowing that from the exams you have around 45 to 60 questions, that typically definitely is enough to complete the exam. Yeah.
Okay. And realistically, in terms of the way I know Microsoft are now, as we all know, Pearson VUE bought out Credly. So Credly are the digital platform specialists who issue all the badges for the different certifications and vendors. I suppose my question is, it's a unique one. We had, back in the day, we had the MCSE up to 2021. So let's say like you had taken your Azure expert exam and you got that badge, and that's lovely. But are Microsoft ever going to like issue an equivalent badge when you take that, after you take so many of the exams, where from what I'm understanding is in the role-based, where if you hold like the Azure Solutions Architect, the associate exam, the fundamentals, the three, are they going to kind of issue a badge that was similar to the MCSE or MCSA going forward, for where you might bundle 3 exams once you have them done? Like, are they going to do that at all going down the line? Because you had core infrastructure, you had network infrastructure. I know you don't have that anymore, so it's all role based. But in saying that, if you look up like the roadmap, you can see, if you want to be an MCSE, you should still do these 4 exams, and that qualifies you, but you don't get a badge, by the way. is what they're saying. It just means you get the single badges for each exam. Do you think Microsoft will bring anything like that back for a point, just so people can show where they're either in networking or security or whatever?
Interesting. Yeah. I see the point. But I think what they decided to reorganize those role-based certifications, basically the class now we have 4 levels. So we have the fundamentals, associate, expert, and you have the specialty. So that's all we have for now. And actually, we heard customers, and not a lot of the customers were happy when they needed to pass 2 or 3 exams in order to get a certification. So they decided to reduce that. So mostly nowadays, all the certification takes just 1 exam to get the certification. I know we have a couple of exceptions, like AC400 and the brand new AC800. So you need to pass 2 exams in order to get the certification. But I think that the model is still that one. So pass either 1 or 2 certifications, and then you will get the badge. That's how definitely the model is nowadays. And I actually had the opportunity to meet with a bunch of other certification junkies at Microsoft and actually have a discussion about what happens if maybe we have a new batch. So definitely maybe we're thinking and would send our suggestions. Maybe actually complete like 10, 50, 20 certifications or 50 certifications actually to provide you with a badge to prove definitely that recognition and that achievement. And I know definitely they heard us. Maybe there's something on the making, but at least in the short term, nothing official that I can share at the moment.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. I have a question. I don't know if it applies to you in terms of will you be able to answer it. You might be, because you might work with people in the program. People I've spoken to online, LinkedIn, Reddit, Twitter, any of those platforms, and people in the past that have complained about it. The MVP process, in terms of the length it takes to, like, from the time you get nominated to the time you speak with your regional lead or anything like that. And then, because, like, let's say recently, I'll use myself as an example. I was nominated back in January or February, and I only spoke to my regional lead there about a week ago, which was, I'd say, easily about a 3 months. By the time it was nearly close to the end of the, you have 3 months from when you're nominated to either, if you get it or you don't get it. But the process from the point of where, like, you get told you have been nominated, you fill out your information, obviously under an NDA, I'm not going to disclose the process too much, but once you have all that done and you've spoken to your regional lead, why is it taking Microsoft months to process the nominations? In terms of, like, when you look at the likes of Ireland, we've such a small amount of MVPs. You would think that Microsoft would want to kind of push the people that are really getting others, the likes of Derek now, and Jennifer and O'Barry and Paul and all these people I work with, where I'm trying to get them certified, interested in Microsoft products. Why is it taking so long for that process? Like, I mean, from what I've been told now, it's going to be a 6-month process to find out from when I had the conversation to I could get it, I may not get it. And then you have the likes of others who have been nominated multiple times and they don't get it. Like, is there something going on in terms of, like, it's just taking so long to process all these applications and kind of give people the good news or the bad news? Like, why is it all being sent back to the US if there's regional leads in the different countries? And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's a question that I always wondered since day dot.
Christian, I'm happy to cover that if you would like.
Sure.
Or you're welcome to
Sure. I'm not actually bad at this. I was on the path to become MVP, and I was preparing my nomination, all that. So I know a couple of folks here in the Canada region that can definitely help with that. But after that, definitely when I enter Microsoft, and as you may know, definitely your Microsoft FTV, you cannot be an MVP. So definitely I abandoned that. So I'm more familiar definitely with the MCT program, not a lot with the MVP. So I defer that to you then. Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a number of people, Matthew, that are involved in reviewing that. And again, you know, even with an NDA and an MVP, I don't know who all those people were
Mhm.
that had to review my nomination. So they gave me kind of a timeline that was expected, but it took longer than that expected time frame. So unlike, you know, I've used the analogy, this is an award. So, you know, the Oscars just happened and something pretty unexpected happened at the Oscars this year. If you're nominated for an Oscar next year, you have to wait an entire year. And then that nomination process happens. And then in that case, you know who all the nominees are. With MVPs, most times you don't know who's been nominated. That's, you know, that's typically not secret, but it's not something that a lot of people will share publicly. They might share with like individuals. Um, the other thing I'd say is that that feedback time frame is the piece that, you know, even the community manager or the person within your area just has to estimate. You know, so they have to give you kind of a time frame of, you know, how long it might take to get all the feedback for people to review and weigh in on your nomination, that type of thing. And so I was just getting ready based on feedback I had heard that after 3 months you need to be renominated because they don't
Yeah.
keep the paperwork around for that long. If they've given you a time frame, the benefit is you know when that, you know, renomination
Okay.
needs to happen if you haven't heard back, or that you can follow up. So I was just getting ready to have somebody. I actually had somebody renominate me, and then on February 1st, I found out that I was awarded. So that's, you know, that's part of it is you have to figure out, you know, with that community manager, you know, hey, you know, have you heard anything back? If they've given you a
Okay.
time frame, the benefit of that is you've got a time frame to
You got a
follow up
time.
with,
Okay.
as opposed to just, you know, being in the dark, like you said.
Okay. That's a fair answer, Dan. Yeah, that's an acceptable answer. I suppose as well at the moment with everything, the MVP conference that just happened, things are kind of, you know, they're backlogged, and I get that. But it's just it's nice to ask the question so that when someone else goes to look for the answer, they can be like, okay, well, this was said on a live session, and this is where it stands, and that
Yeah.
is the fact. Um, Christian, one interesting thing I discovered recently, the MCT regional leads getting involved in all of that. Microsoft do a nomination every 2 years, is it? Is that something that people who have been training can get involved in easily, or is there a long process with that, or is it you have to be nominated, I suppose, to be involved in it? I don't know. So it's just something I see a lot on LinkedIn, people posting that
Mhm.
they were an MCT regional lead, and it looks like a very rewarding and interesting experience.
Yes, yes, that's good. Yeah, actually, I used to be the regional lead for Canada between 2016 and 19. And no, it's definitely a rewarding experience. I would definitely recommend anyone that it's an MCT and it's training. So we definitely have the opportunity to build that community, connect with other MCTs, and help them. So definitely, some case could be just question around will I get the material, or how I can be ready to teach this class, or you have any insights about how I can be a better trainer. So I actually used to run a meetup for the Canadian MCTs, but after that, I unfortunately was not selected again. It's a 2 year definitely mandate nowadays. Definitely be in the regional league for 2 years, and then if you like, you can reapply for the next one. So definitely been very, very busy. Actually, I have not applied for the next one, but no, definitely highly recommend it. If you would like to help other
Yeah.
MCTs and build a community, go for it. Yeah.
It looks like a really rewarding thing to actually do, and a few months back I got in touch with the Irish MCT regional lead, and he was starting up a group on LinkedIn, and it was, it's starting to take off finally in Ireland, which is amazing because we're so far behind, Christian, on everything to do with both, not just Microsoft. You have CompTIA and AWS, and you've Osaka and all the other vendors. We're just miles behind everything. It's only now because of COVID we're starting to get everything back. like all these different opportunities and things. So yeah, I saw it on LinkedIn. I had to ask the question. Thought it was really interesting, and I actually comment on some people's their regional lead plaques, and I was like, this looks interesting. How do you get involved in it? And what was interesting was people are so responsive in the MCT community about that stuff, which is amazing. What you call it? One question I did get asked on the MCT Central forum was, why are beta codes? Example, even myself, I registered to take the SC 100. Didn't know that there was an 80% discount voucher out online the day of, and I had registered and I was waiting for the beta code to come in the email from MCT. Um, why why haven't why don't you get a response even if you didn't get the code? Let's say you weren't selected. Like if you had registered 2 months in advance for some of the codes, you got some codes but you didn't get others, or maybe you haven't registered at all but you only did one, you registered for that particular exam and then you didn't get the code. Is there a backlog in terms of those issuing beta codes? Are they done manually or something, just for anybody that's asking? Because it is widely asked on LinkedIn and on the MCT forum if those are manually issued. Do you know about that, or are they automatic?
Yeah, yeah, I'm really familiar with that one because I know actually back in the days, I guess you're familiar with the MCT Central, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, back in the days, actually, we used to just post those codes on the MCT Central, and then MCT can just go and take those exams for free. But there was actually some abuse reported. Actually, we were able to track down actually someone was misusing those, was actually sharing
Okay.
with outsiders that were not MCTs. So actually, they decided to put this new
Ah,
process in place. So definitely make sure that first of all, MCTs are the one that are actually using those codes, and if you actually sign up and request a voucher, now actually definitely they track down if you actually were taking and using that voucher. So that's definitely what is now a more complex process than it used to be.
so
Yeah,
so that's what's causing all the problems now,
yeah,
because people have literally been handing out the codes to non-MCTs. Um, on that note, absolute disgraceful, because that's what the codes
yeah.
are for. It's for us MCT trainers like myself, Dan, Joe, Frank, to take the exams and help train people into learning that content, and yourself, Christian, as well, obviously. So it's a bit disappointing to hear that that's going on in the world of exams, when there's people like us trying to help people to train and to know the material and to really progress their skill set, and then you have others handing those out to, whether it's students or selling them, because I did hear stories that people were selling the codes as well, which was
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like that's not on. For anyone that's watching the live session, none of us condone that kind of that activity. It's tell people, and that's what those MCTs are about, giving back to the communities and helping people progress in their careers. Christian, you have been a stellar guest on the session, and you've hung on for over nearly 2.5 hours on it. I just want to give a clap to say, you know, for
Thanks for
for for
nice
someone
discussion.
who who responded to my LinkedIn request. I suppose all those sessions I attended really helped. So for everyone
Absolutely.
out there that doesn't know, I've attended most of Christian's sessions when I started my journey. I kind of looked up to Christian just like I looked up to Dan and Frank and Joseph in terms of what their accomplishments were. People like Christian are what make the Microsoft community. People like Joseph, who are helping veterans get to transition from military to an IT career. People like Dan, who have been a 25-year MCT trainer, who are an MVP, who give back. People like Frank, who have worked in the likes of Dell and EMC and places like that, and that have really helped others progress through their own career. It's people like ye that make a difference, and I'm so happy to be part of that group of people. Christian, I suppose the last question is when are you coming to Ireland? Do you come to Ireland at all in terms of Microsoft One Place? Do you do any live sessions, I'm gonna call it? And when's your next one? Have you anything exciting to tell us over the next few months?
I would love to. Absolutely. Well, nothing planned nowadays, but definitely if there's opportunity, we'd love to be there. And yeah, it will be awesome if we can host a session in person. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose we're
I'll be in Spain in mid-June, and then Ireland in late June, early July. So I'll get you the dates, Matthew.
Perfect. Absolutely, Dan. And anyone else on this call, wouldn't it be nice if the 6 of us actually met up in real life and did a session with people? If we were lucky enough that Christian invited us to Microsoft One Place when he's there, wouldn't it be nice if we all met up and did a live session and maybe brought in, I suppose, interns or graduates to a session in Microsoft, showcasing, some of the things in Azure security, a nice session that kind of touched on a few topics, Teams, Office 365. I think that would be a fabulous idea. And I know I had the privilege to talk to, I'm sure everyone knows her if they've dealt with her, Claire Smith during the week, who actually did invite me to Microsoft One Place over the summer period. So I do hope to be up there. I hope to be up there representing the nonprofit community, first off, people who want to learn but don't have the skills or the knowledge to understand where to start. I'm hoping to be in Microsoft on an official capacity for NTES, hopefully liaising with the Microsoft Garage and discussing things that, exciting engineering stuff. And again, as Claire said to me, working with Claire and others to really bring together the MCT MVP community in Ireland, and working in the garage, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to meet you, Christian, in person. I really would like to, because you have been an absolute stellar example of what it means to be Microsoft certified. You're proud to be certified, and that's something I think we can all get behind, and it's something that we should all be proud of. We have all retained a level of excellence, and we hope to share that with everyone as time goes on.
Absolutely, definitely proud to be certified.
Absolutely. So, without further ado, guys, it's we're at the 2.5 hour mark. I want to thank Joseph from Project Veteran House for joining us. Joseph, thank you very much. I want to thank Derek from NTES, who is an IT support engineer, for joining us. Good colleague of mine. I want to thank Frank for joining us, who I've worked with Frank over the last few months. We've been following each other on LinkedIn for years. So thank you, Frank, for joining us tonight. I know it was a tough thing to get to when you have family coming over.
I know.
Ultimately, I want to thank Dan, who was here for a huge amount of support tonight for me in case something went wrong, or I remember having. This started 2 weeks ago, guys. I was having panic about the whole operations and getting it to work and getting it all kind of brought together. Dan has been such a support to me in terms of my nomination for MVP, and really without Dan, I wouldn't be where I am today, because he has progressed Journey to the Cloud from MVPs, MCTs, wannabes, all the way up to Journey to the Cloud 3.0 now at this stage. So it just gets easier from here, though, doesn't it, Dan?
It's been helpful to have somebody else that's been doing the back end, so I can experience what the front end looks like. I can't control everything from here unless I use the admin account and go into Satya. It was either Satya or it was somebody who had the code to join as a presenter, right?
I think next time we might try and get Bill Gates on altogether.
Yes.
Yeah. Why not?
I'm
Like
going
He's
to
emailed my wife once or twice, and she didn't know it was me. So
write. And lastly, I want to thank Christian. He is an MCT and MCSE. He is a pillar of the Microsoft community. He is an inspiration to all of us who started out in IT, and for all the young people worldwide who, in Ireland, UK, and the Europe and the US, who want to get involved in Microsoft stuff, Microsoft certification, and learn the Microsoft route. Honestly, Christian, thank you so much for giving up your time this afternoon. We really appreciate it. Really, honestly, thank you once again. So thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
My
Thank you.
pleasure, Christian.
Thank you for
Thank you very
having
much.
me. Yeah.
So on that note, guys, we're going to go over to our our exit video. And just hopefully we'll see everyone again. Have a lovely Easter. Bye, guys.
Have a
My
good
pleasure
one.
to meet you guys.
Thank you.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye-bye, folks.
Bye.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye bye.